Fakhir had always believed the world bent for him. He was young, sharp-tongued, and dangerously arrogant, the kind of boy who mistook fear for respect and silence for surrender. In the narrow streets of the town, his name carried weight, not because he was powerful by himself, but because power stood behind him: money, connections, and a family that knew how to erase consequences. People crossed the road when they saw him coming. Fakhir enjoyed that at 19. He had already learned one cruel truth: rules were for those who couldn't afford to break them. The night everything changed began like many others: loud laughter, reckless speed, and the thrill of knowing no one would stop him. He was driving too fast, music blasting, friends packed into the car. The street was dim, the air heavy with summer heat. At the corner near the old tea stall, a motorcycle appeared suddenly. The impact was violent. Metal screamed, glass shattered. The motorcycle spun and crashed into the pavement. Fakhir slammed the brakes too late. For a moment, there was silence, then screams. The man on the road lay twisted unnaturally, blood pooling beneath him. His helmet had rolled away, revealing a familiar face. Adel, 20-7 years old. Eldest son, only brother. He worked 2 jobs. He carried responsibility like a second skin. That night, he had been returning home after buying medicine for his mother. Across the street, his younger sibling froze. Sarah had been waiting for Adel outside their house. She saw the car. She saw the crash. She saw her brother's body hit the road. Like it meant nothing, her scream tore through the night. Fakhir stepped out of the car, pale for the first time in his life. He came out of nowhere. One of his friends muttered, "It's not our fault." Another said. Fakhir looked at Adel's broken body and felt something twist in his chest. Not guilt, not remorse, fear. Sirens wailed in the distance. "Call my father," Fakhir said sharply. Within hours, the story changed. The report said reckless motorcyclist. The witnesses fell silent. The CCTV camera malfunctioned. Money moved faster than truth ever could. Adel died in the hospital before dawn. Sarah sat outside the emergency ward, her clothes stained with blood that wasn't hers, her hands shaking as the doctor spoke words that didn't sound real. "We're sorry." Her mother collapsed. Her father aged 10 years in one night. Fakhir attended the funeral not out of respect, but to show confidence. He stood at a distance, sunglasses on, expression calm. Sarah saw him. She recognized him instantly. The boy who killed her brother stood untouched, unbroken, and unafraid. Her eyes met his. Fakhir held her gaze for a second, then looked away. That dismissal burned deeper than rage. The case lasted exactly 12 days. 12 days of hearings, 12 days of lies, 12 days until it was declared an accident. Fakhir walked free. People whispered, but no one spoke loudly. Sarah listened to every whisper. At night, she sat in Adel's room, surrounded by his unfinished life, his clothes, his books, his dreams that would never happen. She replayed the crash again and again in her mind. Not just the accident, the arrogance, the injustice, the smile Fakhir wore as if nothing had happened. That was when grief began to transform. Grief can soften a person, or it can sharpen them. Sarah chose the second. She didn't cry in front of people anymore. She didn't scream. She didn't beg the system for mercy. She watched, she studied, she learned one thing very clearly. Fakhir believed he was untouchable, and that belief would be his greatest weakness, because revenge, Sarah realized, was not about violence. It was about making someone feel every ounce of fear, loss, and helplessness they had caused, legally and permanently. Adel's blood had disappeared from the road, but it had soaked into her memory, and she would make sure it soaked into Fakhir's life as well. Grief changed Sarah in ways no one around her noticed at first. Outwardly, she became quieter. She stopped arguing. She stopped reacting when relatives spoke about fate, about destiny, about how some things cannot be fought. People mistook her calm for acceptance, that it was not. It was discipline. Sarah woke before dawn and sat beside her mother, who now stared endlessly at walls that once echoed with laughter. Her father went to work like a ghost. The house had lost its center, and Sarah felt the weight of holding it together settle on her shoulders. But at night, when the house slept, Sarah worked. She reopened the case files she had secretly copied. She read every report, every contradiction, every missing detail. She learned the language of the system that had failed her brother, and she learned something else too. Fakhir's freedom was not because he was innocent, it was because he was protected. Sarah enrolled herself back into university, choosing law instead of the business degree she had once planned. Relatives questioned her. "Why law? You won't win against people like them." Sarah smiled politely. "I'm not planning to win," she said. "I'm planning to expose." Years passed. While Sarah transformed quietly, Fakhir lived loudly. He posted pictures of luxury cars, parties, foreign trips. He laughed too easily. He drank too much. He drove even faster than before. And why wouldn't he? He had killed a man and walked free. That kind of freedom intoxicates. But arrogance rots from the inside. Fakhir began to believe he was above consequence in every part of life. He insulted partners. He bullied employees. He threatened people casually, confident that fear would do the work for him. What he didn't see was how many people were watching. Sarah followed his trail patiently. She tracked his business deals, his social circle, his temper. She volunteered at legal aid clinics, learning how cases truly fell apart and how they could be rebuilt. She didn't chase him, she prepared. By the time Sarah graduated, she was no longer just a grieving sister. She was precise, calm, dangerous. Her first move was not against Fakhir, it was against silence. She reopened Adil's case not publicly, but academically. She wrote a research paper on manipulated accident investigations, citing anonymous data. The paper gained attention in legal circles. Journalists contacted her. She refused interviews. Not yet. Meanwhile, began to feel irritation he couldn't explain. A contract fell through unexpectedly. A partner backed out last minute. A rumor surfaced about his temper. Small things, annoying things. He dismissed them. People are jealous, he said. But seeds had been planted. One evening, he received a notice in internal audit request regarding one of his companies. Nothing criminal, just uncomfortable. He cursed. Called his lawyers. Handle it, he said. Like always, they assured him. But this time, handling took longer, because this time, someone was feeding the system clean information, quietly, legally, relentlessly. Sarah never appeared. She didn't need to. She sat in her modest office, files arranged neatly, Adil's photograph framed beside her desk. This is for you, she whispered. Fakhir still slept peacefully. He didn't know yet that the ground beneath him had begun to shift, and when it finally cracked, it would not be sudden. It would be slow, unavoidable, and devastating. Fakhir noticed the change before he understood it. It began with looks. People no longer laughed as loudly around him. Conversations paused when he entered rooms. Phones were silenced when he approached. At first he dismissed it as paranoia, but arrogance cannot protect a man forever. Only delays awareness. Then came the article. It appeared online late one night, shared quietly at first, then faster than he could track. When accidents are manufactured, inside the system that protects the guilty. The piece was clinical, carefully written, and devastating. It didn't name names, but it didn't need to. The details were unmistakable. A hit, a manipulated report, witnesses who disappeared, a young man who walked free because his father knew the right people. Fakhir read it twice. By the third time, his hands were shaking, his phone buzzed nonstop. Is this about you? People are talking. Handle this now. He called his lawyers. They assured him again. There's no case, no evidence. It's old. Old. That word had protected him for years, but something felt different across the city. Sarah sat in a newsroom conference room, hands folded calmly. She had finally agreed to speak, but not as a grieving sister. She spoke as a legal expert. As long as power decides truth, she said into the recorder, justice will remain conditional. But systems change when patterns are exposed. The journalist leaned forward. Are you speaking from experience? Sarah met his eyes. Yes. The interview went live the next morning. Still, she did not say Adil's name. Still, she did not say Fakhir's, but she didn't have to. Social media did the rest. Old whispers resurfaced. A forgotten CCTV angle appeared grainy, incomplete, but damning. A former witness now living abroad, posted anonymously. The case trended. Fakhir's world shrank. Sponsors paused. Partners withdrew. Banks delayed approvals. He grew angry, then reckless. One night, he drove drunk again, speeding through the same streets he once ruled. This time, a police checkpoint stopped him. No special call came. No superior officer arrived. He spent the night in a cell. By morning, his name was officially recorded. The image of him behind bars is faster than any rumor. Sarah watched it on her phone. She felt no joy. Only momentum. The government announced a review of unresolved traffic deaths involving influence. A special committee was formed. Adil's case was reopened. Fakhir was summoned for questioning. He sat across from investigators for the first time in his life, not as a prince, but as a suspect. His confidence cracked under direct questions. Inconsistencies surfaced. Old protections failed. When he returned home that evening, his father was waiting. What did you do? The man asked quietly. For the first time, Fakhir had no answer. Outside the house, reporters gathered. Inside, fear settled. Sarah visited Adil's grave that night. It's happening, she said softly. Not because of anger, because of truth. Fakhir still believed he could survive it. He didn't understand yet that survival was no longer the question. What was coming wasn't punishment, it was exposure, and exposure is the one thing arrogance cannot endure. The court did not look the way Fakhir had imagined it. There were no bowed heads, no whispers of fear, no favors waiting in corners, only files, evidence, silence. For the first time in his life, Fakhir sat on a wooden bench that did not recognize his name. The walls did not care who his father was. The judge did not glance at him with familiarity. The law, slow and imperfect as it was, had finally caught up. The reopened case unfolded piece by piece. The missing CCTV footage recovered from a private backup. The witness testimony now protected, now fearless. The medical report re-examined by an independent board. And then, the final blow. A digital forensic expert presented call logs and location data showing Fakhir's speed, intoxication, and deliberate attempt to flee before calling his father. Not emergency services. The courtroom exhaled. Fakhir's lawyer spoke for hours. The judge listened for minutes. Outside, cameras waited. Inside, Sarah sat quietly among the observers. She wore no black, she wore no expression of triumph. In her lap lay a single photograph, Adil, smiling, unaware of the future. When the verdict came, it was simple: guilty of vehicular homicide, obstruction of justice, and abuse of power. Fakhir's knees weakened. The sentence was not dramatic, it was permanent: years in prison, permanent criminal record, financial penalties that stripped him of privilege. The boy who once ruled the streets was led away without sunglasses, without friends, without applause. His father did not look back. News spread quickly, but differently this time, not as gossip. As records, Sarah returned home that evening and sat with her parents. Her mother held her hand tightly. "You did it?" she whispered. Sarah shook her head gently. "No," she said. "The truth did." Weeks later, Sarah was invited to speak at a national legal forum. She stood at the podium calmly. "My brother's death taught me something," she said. "Justice delayed is still justice, but only if someone refuses to forget." The audience stood. Sarah never visited Fakhir in prison. She never needed to. Revenge had not been personal. It had been complete. On the anniversary of Adil's death, Sarah visited his grave once more. "They remember you now," she said softly, "and they will remember why." The wind moved through the trees. Somewhere behind walls and bars, Fakhir learned the final lesson: arrogance never teaches on its own. Power can bend rules, but it cannot erase consequences forever. Sarah walked away, her steps steady, her future open. She did not carry hate with her, she carried closure, and that was the revenge that lasted.